A reading from the book of Deuteronomy. Moses said to the people, "Ask now of the days of old before your time, ever since God created man upon the earth. Ask from one end of the sky to the other. Did anything so great ever happen before? Was it ever heard of? Did a people ever hear the voice of God speaking from the midst of fire as you did and live? Or did any God venture to go and take a nation for himself from the midst of another nation? By testings, by signs and wonders, by war, with strong hand and outstretched arm, and by great terrors, all of which the Lord your God did for you in Egypt before your very eyes? This is why you must now know and fix in your heart that the Lord is God in the heavens above and on the earth below, and that there is no other. You must keep his statutes and commandments that I enjoin on you today, that you and your children after you may prosper, and that you may have long life on the land which the Lord your God is giving you forever." The word of the Lord.
Blessed the people the Lord has chosen to be his own. Blessed are the people the Lord has chosen to be his own. Your words, O God, are truth indeed, and all your works are ever faithful. You love justice and right, your compassion fills all creation. Blessed are the people the Lord has chosen to be his own. See how the eye of God is watching, ever guarding all who wait and hope, to deliver them from death and sustain them in times of famine. Blessed are the people the Lord has chosen to be his own.
A reading from the letter of St. Paul to the Romans. Brothers and sisters, those who are led by the Spirit of God are sons of God. For you did not receive a spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you received the spirit of adoption, through whom we cry, Abba, Father. The Spirit himself bears witness with our spirit that we are children of God. And if children, then heirs, heirs of God, and joint heirs with Christ, if only we suffer with him, so that we may also be glorified with him. The word of the Lord.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Glory to you, Lord. Lord, be in my mind, on my lips, and in my heart. The 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain to which Jesus had ordered them. When they saw him, they worshipped, but they doubted. Then Jesus approached and said to them, "All power in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always until the end of the age." The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Thank you all for coming out in this storm and to celebrate our Mass today. I know the storm is named Alberto, but I don't think it has anything to do with Father Al. This weekend we're celebrating the Feast of the Blessed Trinity, that God has revealed God's self as Father, Son, and Spirit, transcendent but intimately in love with us, involved and interested in our lives. We also celebrate Memorial Day, a day in which we remember the ultimate sacrifice of the young soldiers who gave their lives for our country in so many wars that they seem endless. And we're baptizing Roy, and the whole gospel was about in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit for you. How about that? He's not in the least bit impressed yet. Jesus had all the power of heaven, and yet chose instead to be a minister of love. He could have forced us to behave as he wanted, and chose, even knowing through the Holy Spirit what was coming, to love instead. Why? In 1952, on a very cold winter during the height of the fighting in Korea. Two young Marine corporals, Tim Casey and Jack Robeson, were huddled in a bunker about 100 yards inside enemy lines as snow gently fell outside. Jack and Tim had been friends for about a year. They met in basic training in Quantico, Virginia. They went on furlough together and got advanced infantry training at Camp Pendleton together. They arrived in Busan, Korea in the fall of 1951. And here they were, midwinter in this bunker, passing a cigarette back and forth, huddling to stay warm, when a North Korean soldier was able to sneak up and toss a grenade into their bunker. Tim Casey was the first to notice, and he nonchalantly threw the cigarette butt out, winked at his buddy, and jumped on top of the grenade, and it went off instantaneously. His stomach took the full impact, and he rolled over dead. 4 years later, Jack Robeson entered religious life. And as was the custom in those days, he changed his given name. And in honor of his friend who gave his life that Jack might live, he took the name Casey. He went on to become a professor at a university in Rhode Island. And on school vacations, he would divide his time between his family and going out to visit Tim's mom. Mrs. Casey was a widow who lived in Chicago. One particularly difficult semester, as it ended, he went out to see Mrs. Casey. He was tired, kind of exhausted, depressed even, from the semester he'd just been through. They sat that afternoon at her kitchen table, talking mostly about her friends who he had come to know through the years. He took her out to her favorite restaurant, and when they came home, they sat down with photograph albums with pictures of Tim and reminisced about him. Father Casey then interrupted and said, "Ma, do you think Tim really loved me?" She said, "What are you talking about?" He said, No, I'm serious, Ma. Do you really think Tim truly loved me? Now, Mrs. Casey was kind of a calm woman with a lot of inner peace. But that moment, she stood up and pounded her hands on the kitchen table and raised her voice and said, "Good God, man, what more could he have done for you? What more could he have done for you?" She fell back into her chair, sobbing, her shoulders shaking, and repeated again and again, "What more could he have done for you? Good God, what more could he have done for you?" In a while, she got quiet and looked up and said, "It's okay, Jack. there are times when we all need reassurance. We still have young soldiers dying for us. What more could they do? On May 19, 2010, 19-year-old Philip Clark, who grew up here at Queen of Peace, was killed in Afghanistan. On this date, May 27, 2010, his funeral was here at Queen of Peace. I still remember his young bride leaning over that metal casket and her tears just bouncing off the lid and mingling with the holy water I had spread on it. It was one of the saddest days in all our years. But you know, that's not my real memory, although I remember it. My memory is of Philip coming to Mass every single week from this high to this. He never passed me, by the way. He was still shorter. With the best smile in a church full of smiles. Philip had a way of smiling that made you feel it was just for you. Even though sometimes I know it was for a girl that was right on the other side. Young people are right now dying so that we might live. Jesus died so that we might live. We might also just consider, not necessarily literally like Father Casey did, changing our names to honor those who have given and are giving their lives for us, but at least appreciating it. At least being confident and unafraid to live fully the life God gives us in the greatest of joy, because we are loved. And that's good news.